I'm Gerald Bentley. This is Wrestling with Sales. Today, we are tagging in one of the members of Tag Team, DC Glenn, the Brain Supreme.
Hey,
DC, hey, thanks for joining us, man.
hey, good to be here, my friend. How you doing?
Great. And
Good.
hey, I wanted to reach out to you because I think you've done lots of motivational speaking and you're a guy who has built built your own brand, you built your image, and a lot of it came from hard work. I mean, if people haven't looked into your background, you were one of the biggest DJs in Atlanta, and then tag team back again. You have 16 weeks with the number one song in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't the end. You're still rolling along.
Oh yeah. I have been blessed enough to have taken and made a career, 30-year career off of one song. So thank you for having me, first of all. And I just it's funny how you asked me that question because all I do is grind. All I do is hustle. All I do is plant seeds. I play offense. And the biggest key to all of it is educating yourself. And that's what I wake up every morning to do. And what I'm doing now, I feel brand new, right?
Hmm.
I don't have a timestamp. So, you know, this is going to be fun, a fun podcast. I guarantee
Yeah,
you
because
everybody's going to get a little bit something out of it.
so when you got started, I mean, you moved. I know moved from, was it Chicago?
Yeah, when I was 4 years old, moved to Chicago to Denver, uh,
Okay.
and had an incredible childhood of Denver, Colorado. And, you know, I had switched high schools, and that's where I met Steve. And both our last names begin with a G, so we sat next to each other and became friends.
Okay.
7th grade, and he had a band, and I was like, they used to play in a quad in, you know, lunchtime sometimes, and I was like, I gotta be in that band. And I worked in the truancy office, which passed out slips. And down the hall was Dr. Joyce Davis, who was the head of the choir. And I used to hear beautiful music coming from that room. And I was like, I've got to be in that choir. And I went to my first high school dance, not first high school dance at that high school, Manual High School. I think it was like 82.
Okay.
And that was the first time I saw a DJ with two turntables, a mixer, cutting and scratching. And I was like, I gotta do that. And I became masterful at all three and moved to college at Sac State and just continue to hone my skills in rapping, singing, um, DJing, and have made a career out of all of those things. And I'm still here today.
Yeah. So you got into, did you get into DJing first in Atlanta and then that brought about the album contract?
It was Denver when I was 16.
Oh, okay.
I went and bought after I saw that at the high school dance, uh, I went bought me a rickety Sherwood and Technics turntable and a Radio Shack mixer and tore up my dad's records. And you know, I grew up fast because I just stopped playing with my friends, and all I wanted to do was just learn how to DJ, and I had to learn on my own. So it was
Sure.
a lot of trial and error, and I got good at it. And when I graduated that whole summer, I was just practicing DJing. I got to college, and I was just thinking I'm the best DJ ever. And you know, talked them into let me talk the Mega Sci Five fraternity and let me do their first dance of the year. And my hubris was out of control. And I blew the speakers, picked the turntable up, picked the needle up off the wrong turntable. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And they was about to beat me up. And I talked my way out of it. And you know, most people would have just said, that's it.
Yeah,
But I've
yeah. A
always
lot
been
of people just give up, right?
yeah, I'm not that person. I'm the person that I just vow that that'll never happen again, right?
Hmm.
And I practice and I practice and I practice. And we had a meeting in the dining commons one day, and they had this PA system, and I was like, that looked like a DJ setup. And so I asked the RA, I was like, could I throw a party? Could I just DJ and mix records on Fridays in here if I move all the tables and do everything? It's like, yeah, put down a deposit. I think it was like $25. And
Okay.
for the next 2 years that I was in the dorms, I would throw parties in the dorms on Fridays, and everybody from the dorms, probably about 1,000 kids in the dorms, between 5 dorms. I was, it was Club DC, and I just got better and better and better. And because at Sac State there were so many people from other places, I started ordering records from all over the country. East Coast, West Coast. It was basically just East Coast, West Coast back then.
Hmm.
And I got all the newest records, and everybody who came to my party got a lesson or was privy to the world of hip hop in the beginning, right? So all the records from New York that dealt with the New York culture of hip hop, I was playing in California. Plus, I was playing all the stuff from LA and the Bay Area in California as well, because it was just, and then some stuff from down south. But I would get those records every Friday, and then we'd throw a party. Then I'd sell mixtapes and the whole nine. I just got really good at that. And then in class, once listening to being affected by those records, uh, Scott LaRock and Boogie Down Bronx and MC Shan and Run DMC and all the regulars, but then all the Borough Kings. Um, I got influenced and wanted to rap, and I started writing in class. And I'll never forget, I procured,
Hmm.
without them knowing, a rhyming dictionary at the library, and I was just sitting in class to write rhymes, and I've got 10 books of rhymes still from back in that day of all the stuff that I've written. And that's what started it. And then my boy Johnny Z he got a 4-track for Christmas. And he was like, man, I don't even know how to use this thing. I was like, I'll figure it out. And for those who don't know what a 4-track is, it is basically GarageBand in a little bitty box and you have 4
Sure.
tracks, right? And you use a cassette, and you have 4 tracks to try to get all your stuff in. And I end up making songs. And we had a crappy little Yamaha, and I was like, man, this not doing it. And my boy had a 808, so he let me come over, and I made about 10 beats, and then I just spent the next month putting stuff over top of them, pots and pans, playing a little kids flute, anything that I could get to make sound, scratches and beatboxing, whatever. And I end up making 10 songs, and I sent them to Steve, and he thought I was in the devil worship. And because it just never heard nothing like that. But I made my first songs, because we used to have to go to the studio, right? So if you go to the studio, you got to practice, and the clock is ticking. You're spending money,
Sure.
and we would do it, but it was like it was very limited at what we could do. But I could be in the comfort of my own home and make songs. Oh my gosh, changed everything. So Steve went and got one. So now we're throwing tapes back and forth. I teach Johnny Z how to make hip hop, and he's teaching me about heavy metal. And Johnny Z ends up making a classic In Too Deep, Back to the Hotel. He produced that, right? Because they were from Vallejo. And me and him just happened to be happenstance because we stayed in the dorms on the same floor. He's one of my best friends of this day. So as my college career goes on, I get better and better and better. And then probably after my sophomore year, I DJ every single frat party and sorority party all the way through. And that's when it really started. Then I got to do the big festivals. I got to do all kind of stuff, man. And then I started working in the clubs in college. So I was a mediocre college student because I was getting an education in
Yeah.
hip hop.
You're working all the time.
Yeah, I'm getting an education in hip hop as well. And I come down to Atlanta to visit Steve for Christmas one year, as my last year, and I just fell in love with Atlanta. I knew when I got down here that this is where I was going to be. Went back, finished up, loaded up the U-Haul, drove all the way across the country from California to Atlanta, and I've been here to this, been here ever since.
And it's a great lesson because, like you just said, you had the chance and something that most people would do, right? Man, this is what I want to do. Blew up in my face. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go back to doing what everybody told me I could do because everybody said, man, you can't do that. That's not going to work out. And in
Mm-hmm.
the people that we talk to in sales, everybody in auto sales and corporate sales, you have rejection you have to deal with. And I think the reason why the turnover is so great is because most people do just give up. I
Mm-hmm.
can't take it. Man, I got to get out of this. It doesn't work. Everybody was right.
Nah,
But,
man,
you know,
never. I'm not. I think I get this from my parents. My parents, because they made me work.
hmm
I mean, I have never not known work. Like my father threw me in a pool when I was like 6 months because my father was a swimmer, and
okay.
I've never not known how to swim. So the same thing with work. I've never not known work, and I am so appreciative because them making me do chores and them making me do, making me do everything. They weren't just making me do stuff; they were teaching me, right? And
Yeah.
I know that is why I'm like I am, because I think it was like 9 years old, 9 or 10 years old. We had a blizzard in Denver, and we were one of the only families that had a snowblower. So we're just kids playing in snow, right? When we're doing doing our yard. But Mr. Grant was struggling next door, so I went and helped him. I got you, Mr. Grant. And then we just did the whole block. And then that whole next week, me and my brother, I'm coming back from school, and people like, come here, boy. And here's $20. I appreciate you doing my walkway. And I was like, wait a minute, I got $20 for doing this? My parents only give me $5 a week, right? And back then, $20 was a big deal, right? So
Sure.
uh it the hustler was born, man. And I was like, all I gotta do is work and get money for a
Yeah.
kid that big. Shovel snow, wash cars, rake leaves. See, in Denver, you truly have 4 seasons, so there's something you can make some money on each season,
hmm
right? And then I got a paper route, and then I worked at an ice cream shop, and then I worked at the university, wheeling around projectors and slides. And you notice how I'm saying projectors and slides. This is old school.
Yeah.
Um, to every
So the
class, and then going to pick them up. And then I think at 16, I started working at Mile High Stadium, the Denver Broncos, selling
mhm.
Pepsi. And that's truly a hustle because it's about your ethic, your work ethic. So, and my parents did not want me to go work at Mile High Stadium. And he was like, all right, they're going to take advantage of you. My father, I'll never forget it. And I came home with $350 worth of quarters that first day. And, that's when I realized that I don't care what it is. All I got to do is work and I'll get money. So I've spent a lifetime of working
Yeah.
hard, but then, you got to put a little intellect with that as well. Right. And, I'm a young man. There's certain things I don't know. My father raised me well. Right. But there's things that he didn't know. He can't tell me the ins and outs of the music industry. He can't tell me the things that I wanted to be a part of, because what I wanted to be a part of was brand new hip hop. So,
Sure.
I
So
mean,
that's something you had to learn for yourself.
I
And
had to learn for myself. And, you know, it's funny. I'll never forget, the encounter. I almost gave up with Whoomp There It Is, because we had recorded that in 92, because I knew that being in the South, we weren't going to be able to come up out of the South doing hip hop, right? See, we were hip hop, but down there that's the land of booty shake and and bass music, right? And I knew we had to make something up tempo. And I went to Steve. I was like, "Hey, man, we got to do something up tempo because we'll never get out of here if we keep making hip hop. People like it, but it's not. There's not. This is not what's going to blow you up and get you out of here." And I said, he's like, "I love bass, man, but that stuff is just hard for me to do." I said, "Don't think bass, think hip hop." And to me, the essence of hip hop is one record, Planet Rock. And it's universal. It's a record that everybody knows. And, that was the beginning of the B-boy era, breakdancing and the whole nine. That's where we started. So he put together the beat, and I had all kind of books of raps and stuff. And there was a little party going around that the girls were saying and people were picking up on. And it was just a party saying, like, throw your hands in the air, waving like you just don't care. But it was Whoomp, There It Is.
Okay.
And Whoomp, There It Is, people think it's this big Manhattan project when it was just a song, right? Because Whoomp, There It Is the thesis of every rock song, blues song, country song, R&B, hip hop. It is young men chasing women, drinking on a Friday night. Right?
And
that's all
it
it was.
took a couple of years to get going, didn't it? It wasn't a true overnight hit. It took a couple of years to get traction.
Well, it was the summer of 92 when we recorded it. That night I went to the club because I worked at a club called Magic City Adult Entertainment Club.
Uh-huh.
I got to play my records all the time, the stuff that I would make, and the girls loved it. And when I came from the studio, put Whoomp, There It Is in, to at least 15 people came to the DJ booth and said, "Hey, what is that?" And I was like, "That's my new record." He's like, "You got one, dog." And to this day, that is the biggest response on any record I've ever played. And I've been DJing for almost 40 years. And my hubris as a young man was like, well, shoot, if this worked, every record I do is going to work.
Sure.
I'm just, I kind of shelved it until about January. One of the girls was like, "How come you don't play Whoomp, There It Is no more?" I was like, "I can play it for you." Played again. Same thing happened, man. And this time there was a record rep, because back in the day, it was just New York and LA. So they had regions where they would put, hire record reps that would get the product out to the DJs, to the radio stations that would service everybody.
Sure.
And Alan Cole was in the house, and he came up to me. He was like, "Hey, man, what is that record?" I was like, "That's my new record, dog." And he was like, "Man, give me that. I'm going to New York." He worked for Columbia Records. So he goes to New York, lets Columbia Records hear it. Now I'm getting a call from Columbia Records. I'm like, this could work with every label. So I give them to all the reps. All the reps send it up to New York. And then everybody's trying to, everybody's like, "Hey, we love the record. We want to do this. We want to do that. We want to take a year and develop you and this and that." And I was like, I ain't got time for all that. Right? I don't have time to, it was like, this is a hit record now. And I almost gave up because everybody was just giving me the runaround, and it was a waiting game. And beautiful lady named Lisa McCall told me to call Al Bell. And for those who know, who Al Bell is, they're in the beginning of soul music, right? There were 3 labels. It was Motown Records with Berry Gordy. It was Philly International, and then it was Stax Records with Al Bell. Fast forward to 93, the year before, he had put out a record called Daisy Dukes by the group called Deuce, and it went gold. So I was like, I'll talk to him because I could go gold. And I called him. Took him about 2 weeks for him to call me back. And I was like, "Look, dude, I got a hit record. I tested it. I'm in the hottest clubs in the country down here in the South, and they love it." And I said, "You gotta sign us, man. There's no playing." He was like, "Okay." I was like, "See, now you playing with me, dude." And he was like, I was like, "You haven't even heard the record." And I'll never forget these words. He said, "Brother, I don't have to hear the record. I hear it in your spirit. Let's agree to agree, get this thing moving." And I gave my 2 weeks in Magic City, signed a messed up record deal. In a month and a half, tag team was platinum, and the rest is history. And that's how it happened, man.
There
And
you go.
I've been, working hard ever since, and it's just a testament to never giving up and just being relentless and working hard and doing what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think it's so relatable to really just about any industry because
Mhm.
everybody needs to work and grind. Yeah, I do want to get in a word from our sponsor, our
Hmm.
friends at Montway Auto Transport. They're asking auto dealers, do you know where your vehicles are and when they'll arrive? Hey, I know the inventory management challenges dealers face. There's record low inventory right now, so I'm certain the answer is a resounding no. But Montway Auto Transport can change that answer to a confident yes with the Montway Automation Portal, better known as MAP. It's a revolutionary platform for auto transportation and a smarter way to move your vehicles and manage orders. If you're taking cars from the auction, bringing them to a customer, either way, it doesn't matter. It gives you end to end visibility of all inbound and outbound units. You can upload VINs, get pricing, dispatch orders, and track every order from one screen right there on your dashboard. Leveraging MAP can save you time and money, which is important in car dealerships, and get vehicles to your lots quicker to sell. With MAP, you can book, track, manage everything right there from your dashboard, one revolutionary platform. Hey, see MAP in action at www.montway.com/WS. It's www.montway.com/WS and put your dealership on the map. Now, hey, so just talking about it because that was a great story, right? Because it wasn't an overnight success. It was years of work, years of effort, different industries, different ways of making things go. And then, like you said, you thought, man, every album's going to do this. But he had a few other records that were decent, decent hits, but not
Now,
that,
Great
right?
Areas was just too big, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, just kind of, you know, I tried to do everything I could the right way, but I was a young man, and we were kind of doomed from the start. But you learn. I learned early that as a grown man, you have to take responsibility for your actions. And if I did something wrong, or if I didn't do something the right way, or wasn't as knowledgeable about something, I correct all that stuff. And that's just my nature, right? But now, fast forward, 30 years, a lifetime, I am masterful at that. And that's why, tag team is still here,
Yeah.
because I went and learned marketing. I went and learned advertising. I went and learned SEO. I went and learned voiceover. I went and learned how to act. I went and learned how to run my life like a corporation, right? I went and learned from being, in a bad uh, record deal. Basically, I became a paralegal because I knew I would get my day in court because the record company went bankrupt, and another record company had kind of bought half of the catalog in a IRS auction, but they took the whole catalog, which they weren't supposed to do.
Hmm.
And that's what began a legal battle, and we were the pawns in the middle. So I could have became an old bitter rapper like most rappers are, because everybody got back then. People are still getting taken advantage of
Oh,
because the
absolutely. Yeah. It happens to so many artists
yeah, the
because
lure of
they
the
don't get to
star.
keep their content.
Yeah, the lure of being a star is overpowers any logical thinking that a young person needs, right? Because they think is all I gotta do is be a star and all will be well. and they have no idea. And that is been since the beginning of time of music and in business too. So I basically said, well, you better learn how to become, you better learn the language, because that's the first thing I did. I learned the language of lawyers so I can know what each one of them are talking about, so I can read briefs, so I can learn discovery. I learned what emotion is. I learned how a case comes to trial. I learned how to put together discovery in a way to where if I have to fight, because at the beginning I thought I could fight the record companies, and you know I didn't realize that my little money, which was big money to me, was small money to record companies,
Hmm.
entities. So I exhausted my supply, and I had to go back to what I knew best, DJ. But all that time, I vowed that this will never happen again, and I studied. And you know, we didn't get the money we were supposed to get, and I vowed that'll never happen again too. And I started studying finance, and actually became a licensed commodities broker because I really was vowed that that would never happen to me again. And once I figured out what it really wasn't for me, because I would have had to give up music, and I wasn't going to give up music. But year 2000, I looked at CNBC and didn't know what they were talking about. Year 2002, I knew everything they were talking about. And that's what started it. I started getting into was big into self-help. Robert T. Kiyosaki, Zig Ziglar, Anthony Robbins. This was like at the beginning of Anthony Robbins, right? And
Sure.
I went through every book that ever came out, and I started running my life like a corporation, right? And that has held true for the last 25 years because I had to figure it out. But if you kind of parallel yourself to a corporation or the business, then you can do it. And it's difficult, but once you start, once you get your, I'm a C corp, so I've been a C corp since 2000.
Hmm.
And well, now that I'm a C corp, what do I do? Well, you got to do taxes, you got to do this, you got to run your company, you got to. I mean, there's all kind of things that you have to do. So I basically became my own bookkeeper because I couldn't find anybody to do my bookkeeping right. And because people don't know what you spend your money on, and then you don't realize that you can't commingle personal and business, and you learned all these things the hard way. But I started doing my own bookkeeping. Now I'm masterful at QuickBooks, and I know where every penny in my whole life is going. And when you
Well,
realize how much money you actually make, then you can make better decisions on where to put it. And if I have extra money, I get it out of my sight, which is in the form of SEP IRAs and Roth IRAs and all the little buckets that you can present
yeah.
and fill
Hey,
up.
that's definitely something that's super important for salespeople too, because
And
these
I would,
last few years,
yeah.
they've been making a lot of money. You better be
Mhm.
saving some of it because it's not going to stay this way forever.
And the beauty of it is, here's the beauty of it, is that you don't see it. So if you get rid of it every year, I try to fill up every single bucket.
Hmm.
And now all those buckets, when I'm back in the clubs, I make good money in the club, but it's like I'm filling up those little buckets. I do my own bookkeeping. I don't do my own taxes because that's a little bit, tax codes change every year for C corps because they make those laws for business people,
Yep.
right? So they make those laws for business people to keep this economy moving. So everybody gets mad at the corporate structure when I'm not like that. I never play the victim. I never fall into the trap of, they don't teach us that. We didn't learn that here. We didn't learn that there. It's like, nobody's supposed to give you anything. Nobody owes you nothing. Nobody will ever give me anything. It's up to me to go get my money, right? It's up
Hmm.
to me to educate myself. So when I have people that they go to every single IRS meeting every year, they know what tax codes change. And then now I can be creative in how I put my bookkeeping together. And then when I give it to my tax people, they were like, wow, I never thought about doing it like this. Yeah, because I know the rules. Once you know the rules, you play the game better. You see what I'm saying? So that's when
Yeah.
over years, you become masterful at it. So me
Well,
running
yeah.
like a corporation, well, that's part of it. And then um, wherever you're at, you have to get in the corridor, right? That's what one of these. I can't remember. I can't remember what this book was, but it was called "Getting in the Corridor." Guy wants to own a pie. He wants to do pies. He wants to do a pie shop. So he goes and works at a pie shop, and he learns everything about a pie shop. Then he leaves and opens his own pie shop. And once he opens his own pie shop, then he gets really, really good at it, and he opens maybe 4 or 5 more. Then he starts franchising. Then he sells his whole, he gets tired. He's like, I want to do something else. I can do something bigger. He sells his whole pie thing for $20 million. And if he had never worked at a pie shop, he would have never known how to do it. So I flipped it in reverse. I said, well, since I'm the DJ everywhere, I'm DJing in the hottest clubs in the city. Let me do the marketing. Let me change the lights. Let me be the audio guy. Let me be the guy who does the radio spots, who does the television spots, who does the voiceover, who does the fashion photography, who does the pictures, who does everything in-house. And you have to hire 10 people to do what I do. And now I have made myself invaluable. So for people who are stuck in a dead-end job, you're looking at it the wrong way, because learn how to do everybody else's job. If you know how to do everybody else's job, you know everything about that company. When the boss comes in and says, where's such and such, I need this done, and they're not there, you're like, I got it. And then you know everything about that club, you elevate in that club. And even if that, not club, but if that business, and even if that business goes down, or even if you get laid off, your transition and your ascension to the next bigger thing is easier, because you've acquired the skills that you need that come back to serve you in ways you never thought it would. And that is what I've always done. I go in and I take over. I deal with the owner, because I want to know what the business is about. I deal with the company. What's your hierarchy, right? And you said something very poignant. You gotta, in sales, the most important thing is to, you have to be able to deal with rejection. But see, rejection is part of the game. That's why I love acting, because acting, my job is to get rejected, right? And I looked at it like, at first I was like, man, why aren't they picking me, right? But then it was like, what are you doing? You know that you can do this. So if it takes you 100 auditions to get to where you want to be, can we do 10 a day? Right? Because I know I'm going to get rejected, and I'm not going to get the job anyway. Once I took that mindset, I'm not going to get the job anyway. So I might as well just have fun. I start booking like crazy. And it just works. It just works, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's like a couple of all-time lyrics that come through, right? Good things come to those who grind, never take a step back, leave the past behind, and keep your mind on the money and the money on your mind. I mean, that's what you're doing. And man, the huge rebirth, right? Which I want to play your little clip here, but then ask you, as we're winding down, how did you feel when this came out? Because this was just right out of the blue and really hit. People loved this.
I mean, once I got the call from Geico, we put the particulars together. We start preparing it, because I'm an actor and I understand commercials. First thing I came up with, I wish I had a spinning scoop. How could I do a spinning scoop? And then I had some other ones. I learned these, dances that only people would know in Atlanta, just to pay homage to my culture. People are like, I look at this thing 30 times a day just because it makes me smile. Every time I see it, at the end, I laugh. I don't know why. Hey, tag team, back again.
I mean, that was just great, because that is the reaction that I think people got from that. It just makes you feel good. And it's insurance. You don't think insurance is going to be something that you're going to be all happy and have good feelings about, but there are people running around going sprinkles, and it just hit 1.8 billion impressions from that one ad, according to iSpot TV. That's
And
amazing.
that was that was in 1 month. Like, I got to do a follow up with iSpot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, like, and all of this parallels. This story goes back to 2011 when the world thought Barack Obama was in our video because a New York Times reporter contacted me, and I had no clue. And now we did press for like 2 weeks: ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN. I mean, every blog. I mean, it was like, is that really? They took a clip from the guys who did Daisy Dukes, L.A. Snow, and looked
Uh-huh.
just like young Barack Obama. And Stephen Colbert even did a little clip about it, right? And that blew up for like 2 weeks. But then I was so disappointed because at the end of those 3 weeks, I had no money in my pocket. And I vowed that'll never happen again. And that's what started my SEO career. And since I'm DJing in the clubs, we still do shows. We do maybe, a certain amount of shows a year, but I still have to, I still love DJing is just easy money. And that's where I honed all these skills and voiceover and all the things that I do, because I was everything for all the clubs that I worked for. So over time, you become masterful at all these things, right? And fast forward 2020, I get a call from my agent, Lena, and she's like, DC, you just booked a Geico commercial. I'm like, come on, don't play with me. I haven't even auditioned for a Geico commercial. And she's like, no, DC, tag team. And I was like, oh. And I went and checked my phone, and there was a message from the Martin agency. And they didn't wait for me to call them back. They went and excuse me. Woo!
See, it's money calling in right now.
It really is. Lena, she called me, and because they didn't wait for me, they went to my IMDb. Now, because I do SEO and because I do digital marketing, I have all my portals filled out perfectly. I got websites. I got all these things that increase my visibility to be found. And they called my agent, the People Story Agency Atlanta, and for acting of all things. And I let them make the deal, because now I don't got to go get lawyers. I ain't got to stress about that, because this is what they do. So you see that synergy that was created by what I put together a long time ago and all that work that I put in. And I let them make the deal, and it's the biggest deal I ever made in my life, even bigger than Whoomp. There it is. And now all I do is work on television appearances, and I'm pretty much my own ad agency now, because I make pitches for different brands now, right?
There you go.
And I become very good at it. And that's where every year, Whoomp, there it is in something. But I've never been a star guy. I've never been a rah-rah guy. I like to live my life, right? So I do this, and I do everything I do in the shadows. So it might seem like a story of redemption and coming back from the ashes and whatnot, but it's not. I've always been doing this. And, fast forward, now we get to do the commercial. I treat it like I'm going in for an audition. I create 5 or 6 things that I can imprint on this commercial. And that's where the spin and scoop comes from. That's where the sprinkles come from. That's where all this comes from. The director and the producer, like, anything you want to do. And when we showed up to set, it was there. And on Christmas 2020, they dropped that commercial, worldwide YouTube advertisement. We're on the cover, we're on the, type in YouTube, it's us for the whole weekend. And it was off to the races. But we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I can't go make no money because we can't do shows. Right. But I started booking like crazy. I started doing I said, let me find a publicist so I could blow up everything else, the acting, all the stuff. And I never, I said, I probably went to about 3 or 4 publicists, and they were like, well, we don't know what to do with a commercial, and blah. They gave me every reason why they couldn't instead of one reason why they should. And I said, this is another thing that I do. This is my number one thing that I do. When people put roadblocks in front of me or tell me no, I say, that's okay. I'm gonna be my own damn publicist. And I go join an organization. I joined the Public Relations Society of America. Super Bowl week, because the commercial's hot. And I'm on this Zoom call, and they're like telling about with the CEO of this PR company. And I raised my hand and said, "Are press releases still relevant?" I know they are, but I wanted to hear what this, professional has to say. And she's like, "Well, what's it for?" I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of featured in a Geico commercial called Scoop. There it is." And I've been holding this press release. I'm trying to figure out when to drop it. And I'm looking at the chat, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not him. What's he doing here? Oh my God, I love that commercial. It just blew up the entire chat. And I have that ability to kind of steer the conversation back toward me without steering the conversation back toward me, right? And the CEO's like, yes, that press release is going to work, especially now because the whole last year has been every story's COVID, every story's political. And here you guys come throwing, sprinkles and spinning scoops and smiling and having a good time. And you're going to go here for all the publicists, here for all the journalists, here for all the TV talk shows, here for all the podcasters. She gave me the entire breadth of her 40-year experience in 10 minutes. And it's changed my life forever. And is the reason that you and I are talking right now. You see you see how staying engaged and planting seeds and going and being relentless about the education that you get. You join an organization because organizations and societies or associations are filled with people who have been doing their profession for 10, 20, 30 years. And they can't wait to tell you. I'm a part of 30 professional organizations and trade organizations. When I want to learn something, I go there because all you got to do is pick up the phone and start asking people, and you can find out if it's for you or not in 2 weeks. And now I do so much, and I have the ability to turn one thing into 10. And all I do is plant seeds, and plant the thing with planting seeds, there is no quid pro quo. I don't plant a seed and be like, okay, if this doesn't happen, this got to happen if I do this. I don't do that. I just plant the seed, keep it moving, because everything for me in life is about preparation. I wouldn't even plant the seed if I wasn't prepared for it to grow. Right?
Great lessons.
Yeah, we got a person who plants that seed, and I'm gonna take a real estate course and I'm gonna be rich. And then you see like having that real estate course. Well, I'm trying to do this now, or I'm doing this now. And
I've got my broker's licensing class in the window next to the broadcast window. I'm working on that too. So that definitely relates.
And I'm listening to classes all the time, right? I'm writing my first book. And I'm doing all these things. Like I say, I just finished 3 pitches for Anheuser-Busch. I can't even get to acting and voiceover because I'm so busy on tour with tag teams. So it's just a lot. That was a show probably right there. So I mean, it is an incredible thing, and all I do is work. And like I said, I feel brand new. I'm just starting. That's how I feel, because I am on the forefront of everything digital, right? Like I have figured out ways to use social media and all the things that the young kids use because they grew up in this. They're baked in the cake with this. But us as more mature individuals, we're not going to do, the way they blow up on social media. We're not going to do that because we're mature. We don't need that attention like that. We're looking how we do it with business. And I figured out how to do all of it because of SEO, search engine optimization, the ability to get on the first page of Google, the ability to get in front of the people who can pay you, because I don't need 100,000 people to like me. I just need 100 people to pay me. And
incredibly true with car sales, right?
I mean,
selling anything. You need a few customers to say yes.
You need a few customers to say yes. So you better get used to rejection. You better fly through them, because the quicker you can get through your rejections, the quicker you can get to your money. And people don't see it that way. They see it as a personal slight toward them. What is it? Me? You don't like me? What is, that's the whole thing that's the attention factor. That's you got to put all that to the side. And the easiest way to do that is to sequester your ego, kill your pride, because pride kills men, kills a lot of men, whether they don't want to go to the doctor, whether they don't want to be wrong, all these things that we see other people and sometimes ourselves fall victim of, you have to be able to control. So therefore, I'm not in my emotions, right? I've learned the ability to take any negative emotion, hate, envy, despair, loathing. I sound like Yoda.
Well, but it's all true, right? I mean, you can't get so true with sales too. You can't get all stuck in your feelings because, oh man, they didn't like it. Okay, maybe the next person will. They don't know you. You're the salesperson. You're the guy that they were thinking they can't open up to anyways. So the baseline is to be rejected. If they actually like you and open up to you, that means you did a great job, whether you sell them or not. At least you're related some, and now you're closer to getting the sale. If you turn off because somebody rejects you initially, you're doomed. And I'm sure that's true of music too.
I mean, it's true in life. But here's the thing: you just don't react. You have to you have to let it tear you up inside, right? And you have to keep it moving. And the ability to do that is basically multitasking with your emotions. You can do two things at once, because we are human and we do get like that. But you can't react to it, because if you let people see you react to it, then you see their reaction and now all bets are off, right? But if you can just deal with it within yourself, you realize that what I do, all I can tell you is what I do. And what I do is I try to find the positive in the negative, right? Why don't they want this? What is it about this that they're not getting? Or how come they don't want to buy this car? And if you're not listening, you're not coming up with your answer. If you can't find the positive in that perceived negative, your answer is right there in front of you, right? And if they tell you something, hey man, this car costs too much, blah blah, or whatever it is, you're trying to get over them. It's like, well, don't get defensive. Say, I take the approach of, if somebody is critical of something I do or critiques me, I say, what if what they were saying, even though I know it's bullcrap, what if what they were saying is right? What would I do about it? And I come up with that solution. And now I have another tool for my tool shed of life. Because those are the things that are right in front of you, that now you have the proper tool to deal with. And if you come across you in life, it's not necessarily right there that you got to deal with it, but you come across these scenarios often in life, and now you have the tool to deal with it, and you're not in your emotions. You are actually working toward that solution. And that's how I've always been. And I just try to work towards solutions, man. So that's me.
No, that's great. That's why you're the brain supreme.
Hey.
And hey, you get to be this week's Wrestling with Sales champion. Got the belt here?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions, championship round. What was your favorite tag team performance venue? You've performed at a bunch of NBA arenas, NFL stadiums, major events. Is there one that jumps out to you as being the best one?
1994, the Hippodrome, London, England.
Okay.
Greatest performance ever.
Why is that?
Because we weren't even supposed to perform. It was CC Peniston's show. And this club called the Hippodrome that was kind of built like Mad Max's Hippodrome, right? But it was just way bigger. And we were like, let's go out. We went out, went to the club, saw how packed it was. and it was a radio promotion. I went, it's like, man, we got to perform. Went to the radio program director. I said, hey, man, DC from tag team. He just flipped out. And I was like, can we perform? I said, we perform, man. We just want to do Whoomp. And he was like, yeah. I said, we got to go back to the hotel and get the DAT. Because back then we would perform off of a DAT, digital audio tape.
Sure.
And went back, got the DAT, came back. They took us down in the basement because the stage was a hydraulic lift. And it would lift from the basement to the platform, to the dance floor. And I'll never forget it, man. Once they started, and it was like, we got a special guest for you. Here we go, tag team. And then we rose up out of there. And when I said party people, the amount of energy and electricity in that room, I've never felt that again to this day.
That's a great story. How about your favorite current artist?
I don't listen to music, man. My favorite current artist
Okay.
is who educate. So I listen to maybe 3 or 4 courses a day, because it's not just enough to learn. You have to learn how to learn. So,
sure.
Perfect example. When I want to learn something, I'll take that course. I'll fuse it together, edit it together, and make it all one course. So if it's 30 different sections of that course, I'll fuse them all together, make it one. Then I listen to it on 5 times speed while I'm working and doing other things in the background, and you pick up things, because you'll never be able to listen to one. See, that's the misconception. People think they can just listen to one thing and they'll know it. Never works like that. You can't retain information like that. So I am constantly just
keep
learning how to learn and picking up these things, because it gets to a point where most stuff I kind of know, but you hear something new that you can apply to your game, and now your game is better, right? So when I do that it's various artists and anybody who's got knowledge. Like right now, I've been deep into AI since day one, and everybody's scared of AI, and it's like, stop saying AI. And what is it really? It's a tool to help you be more productive, right? That's how you perceive things. So I don't listen to music anymore. If I do listen, it's a little gospel. It's still my old school 90s set. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's it, man.
No, that's great. Hey, no problem. And where will people see you guys next? Is there a tour coming up? Any events coming up in the?
We're constantly on tour. We're on the I Love the 90s tour. We're on the freestyle tour. We're on like 3 different tours right now. But we do state fairs, parades. We just did last season of The Masked Singer, working on Dancing with the Stars now. Just all kind of little things, right? Just all I work on is TV performances and concerts, NBA halftime shows, NFL halftime shows, Major League Baseball games. Because we're clean, we cover the whole spectrum.
Sure.
So we're good to go.
Excellent. Well, hey, DC Glenn, man, thanks a lot for taking the time to step into the ring here on Wrestling with Sales. You can follow him at DC Glenn ATL on Instagram. Check all the social medias that DC Glenn ATL is going to lead you to him. And thanks for stepping back in here, tag team back again. And man, it was great having you in the ring here on Wrestling with Sales. Really appreciate it.
I want to just thank you for letting me come on here and run my mouth, because running my mouth is my favorite thing to do, because I learn things as I run my mouth. I'll probably come up with like 5 more hustles from this conversation. So I appreciate it.
No problem. I have a little bit more airtime than Tamron Hall does, so we can go a little bit longer. Not as elaborate of a set as Tamron Hall does. No, we got to work on that.
Every day. I do these every day. You know what I mean? Because that's what it's about. I just want to help everybody, because I've been blessed. So if I don't go and try to help people, or if I see holes in different things, just try to tell people and lead them to the right thing, then, I don't feel worthy. This is what I like to do. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Sure. Yeah. Thanks again. And check out Montway Auto Transport, montway.com/WS for more information about them. We'll be back again here on Wrestling with Sales. Thanks a lot.